Hey branches, welcome back to another devotional. So on Sunday we talked about from Ezra and Nehemiah how God keeps his promises, right? And that's so easy to say. We sing songs about it, we think about it, God keeps his promises. But many times it's hard to actually live with that type of trust and faith that he does keep his promises, especially when you're going through something hard. This week, Haley and I, we've been dealing with the situation for about a year and a half now, and we got devastating news on that situation again. It just felt like a punch in the gut, right? And when you're so hopeful going into it and thinking that everything's going to be okay, that everything's going to be solved, that everything will be remedied, and then it's not. And it's in those times of our lives when the worst situations are happening, when we feel like we've just been knocked down again and again and again, that we have to remember that God is a God that keeps his promises, that he wants what's best for us, that he does want to bless us. I mean, we have to remember, like, one of the most important promises that we quote often, Romans 5:8, is that all things work together for good to those that love God and are called according to his purpose. That's a promise. And no matter what we're going through, no matter how terrible the situation is, no matter how many times we've gotten knocked down, that God is still working out everything for his glory and for our good. It's hardest to remember that God is the God that keeps his promises when we're in the roughest situations. You know, the Israelites, the people of Judah, when they were taken away as slaves into Babylon, it was a horrific situation. It's terrible. Their city was burnt down in Jerusalem. The temple was destroyed. They were made slaves. And yet through all of that, right, they had to remember that God was going to keep his promise. He promised them that for 70 years they'd be in that slavery and then he'd return them home. And it's hard during those dark times, those times that require extreme patience, that require us to have long suffering, that require us just to wait on the Lord. It's hard to remember that God is a God that keeps his promises. But those are the most important times for us to trust. Just to lean into him, not to run from him, not to doubt his goodness, but to lean into him more. To say, you know what, God, you are a God that makes promises and you're a God that keeps his promises. You promise to never leave me and never forsake me. So even though I'm in this hard situation right now, I'm going to trust you. Because you are a God that is a promise keeper. No matter what you're going through, God can work it out for good. No matter how long you've been in this hardship, God's doing something for you and for his glory that maybe you don't even realize. He's always working, even when we can't see it, even when we can't feel it, even when we don't know what God is doing. He is still working everything out for his glory and our good. Our God makes promises, and our God keeps his promises. Love you guys, and I hope that you realize that God loves you so much, that he's keeping his promises right now that he's promised you. Love you guys. Later days.